Hey guys, we are back with a brand new episode, and I got to be honest, our guest today was one of the best interviews I got to do. He finished third in America's Got Talent season 14. He was a contestant on AGT's The Champion season 2, and he is a comedian superstar now. But more importantly, he is a wrestling fan, just like most people I know. He is Mr. Ryan Niemiller, and guys, the show starts now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I told you guys we had a special guest today, and we have him, Mr. Ryan Niemiller. Sir, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Josh. Thanks for having me. Glad we could finally get this done. A little behind the scenes. We've been trying to do this for what, 2 months, 2.5 months, something like that.
It's been a few back and forth kind of talks and trying to figure stuff out. Let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, obviously, for everybody, 2020 has been a crazy year.
The world's on fire.
How's it been for you? I mean, I've seen a lot of your social media posts, and you just did a big move. But tell us and tell some of the listeners how that's been for you.
It's been up and down. Before I kind of start talking about any of this, I want to make it clear that I understand this is a lot more serious for some people. I don't want to make light of anything because I know people are sick and have died, and there's literal big world things going on. Honestly, it's been really up and down. So I was off the road starting in March. So I worked, I think, March 6th through the 8th or something like that in Appleton, Wisconsin. So those were my last gigs on the road when everything started shutting down. And at the time, I will be perfectly honest, for about 2 weeks, I was excited. Because after AGT, I went nonstop. AGT ended on a Wednesday. I flew home Thursday, was on the road Friday, and was pretty much on the road nonstop. So, and I loved it. I love getting to travel and do gigs, but I was tired. I was exhausted. Traveling it wears you out. So the first couple of weeks, I was like, sweet, I can sleep. This is gonna be great. And then it's just it keeps going and going and going. It's almost a little over 3 months now, 4 months, and my gigs have either been canceled or postponed and moved, and no one knows when we can work again. And every state's different because they have these different rules, and some states have figured it out, and now we're having spikes in other states that might have opened too soon. Then we had the thing with DL Hughley, who I'm glad he's going to be okay, but he was out doing comedy and he didn't know he was sick and passed out on stage and tested positive. So it's I don't want to accidentally do that to somebody. I don't want that to accidentally be done to me. So it's just weird times. It's all day to day. We were joking kind of before we started recording, I'm trying to survive today. We'll figure out tomorrow after, but this is unprecedented. This is it's weird times, and just wear a mask. That'll be my political statement for the show. Just wear a damn mask so we can all go back to work.
On that, I mean, we talked about, you mentioned AGT. I know listeners are going to want to have to hear about it. My wife said this is when I told her that you had we had set up a time for the interview. She was like, "I'll actually listen to this episode of your podcast."
Nice. I'm glad I get you a little fed with the wife. I'm good. I'm glad.
So she's a big fan. But one of her questions with it was, how was that process? I mean, I know there's some stuff you can't get to, but how was it just coming into audition compared to really making it into that, deep in there? I mean, you finished third overall with it. And, how was that process? If you can give us kind of some background, just how it was for you kind of taking into that world.
Sure. It is something that I will be forever grateful that I got to be a part of. I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. I mean, even with some of the stresses, because, it's stressful. You talked about, it's kind of weird to look back in hindsight to think before, because before that first audition took place, it's only been 15 months at this point. So it was taped in March when that very first audition was taped. And that was, getting to even do that is huge. I had been trying to get on the show for 5 years. I had been auditioning to try to get that shot. for a long time. So it wasn't just like I kind of like got a whim and went, oh, I'm gonna go do AGT because it's just real easy to go show up and do it. Like I've been trying for a while, and like it was very surreal because the easiest part of it was on stage for me. Once I got out there, I knew I was gonna be fine. Once I got that first laugh off of the I have a disability. I think it's called being very handsome. Once I got that laugh, I was like, "We're about to crush this." But leading up to it was super stressful. There was some scheduling things, so like I didn't end up performing on the day I originally thought I was going to. So I had gotten up and down, up and down. Plus, with like that kind of show, like this is what I had been working for. Like AGT specifically is what I had been working for a long time. And I finally got the chance to go audition in front of the judges, and it had to work. Like you don't get a second chance. Like if I would have like eaten a dick, for lack of a better phrase, had I just like blown it up there, they're not going to ask me back for season 15. You know, like it has to work. And luckily that pressure I'm good with, but yeah, it's still surreal to kind of think because like it all happened so fast, and it was really nerve-wracking. Like once I got into the live shows, I actually thought the live shows were a bit easier. It seems a little counterintuitive to a lot of people because the live shows, once you do it, you do it. So whether you do well or you bomb, it's done. It's been aired. You know what's happening. You get the results the next day. You go from there. With the first two, the first round is taped in March and the judge cuts were taped in April. The show doesn't start airing until late May, early June. So obviously I knew I did well. Like I knew what happened. Right. I was there. But you're not allowed to talk about it. So it was such like a strange feeling to like it's hard to explain, but like knowing your life is going to change in such a huge dramatic way, and you can't tell anybody. There's no one you can talk. Like the only people that kind of kept me sane during that was getting to talk to a couple of the other contestants. Like, so people I became friends with, like during the process, like during the judge cuts and stuff, you get really close with a lot of the other contestants just because it's such a weird thing no one gets to do. So like those are the only people you could really confide in because even my friends that had done the show before, like I'm friends with some of the comics who had done AGT in the past, you can't tell them how you did. You can ask vague questions about like, oh, how did you prepare for this? Is this normal? But you can't even, I couldn't be like, because Samuel J. Comroe, for instance, is one of my really good friends in comedy. He was season 13 and he was a finalist. I couldn't tell him, oh, hey, by the way, I made the live shows. What do I do? You still had to keep it vague during that time. So it's a very surreal experience. Because like I said, like knowing exactly like your life is going to change for the positive. Like that 2 months was very, it was a very, like, this weird pit in your stomach. Like it's obviously all positive. It's great stuff. But you're like, am I ready for this change? Like, how is this going to work?
With that, like you talked about that, just that intense pressure that kind of goes on there. Have you watched any of this season so far?
I've watched clips. So I've watched individual clips. I've watched the comics, and then a couple of the contestants just kind of reached out to me kind of independently, just kind of, hey, I was a big fan. Like, what do I do? So I was able to give like vague, kind of vague advice. But yeah, I've watched a little bit. I haven't watched full episodes though.
Did you get the chance to see Christine Hurley?
I don't think so. No, she was one of the ones. She got a golden buzzer, right?
No, she was one of the comedians. She went up and started. It was real kind of like that moment of just dead silence, and then she said her first punchline with it, and like got everyone laughing.
Oh, okay, yeah, I did not see hers. No.
Okay, she was rolling real good, and then like right at the end, however she worded the joke, it lost the audience on it, and you could tell it had that just dead silence that everybody knew, and she even paused and was like, "Yep, I messed that up," and kind of stopped her whole set and went through it. Have you ever been in a situation where that's kind of happened, where you just, whatever you had planned went, sideways, and, how do you go through that when that happens?
Oh, in comedy, yes, that's happened hundreds of times. Luckily, it didn't happen on AGT. Because I can't imagine, I would never give anyone grief for bombing on that show, because the pressure is intense, and that show, it's a talent show. It's not a comedy show. It's not designed for stand-up comics. Like, doing 90 seconds to 2 minutes of stand-up comedy is not how this process works. Right. So to have something, and especially on that show, because I mean, I've had jokes that I thought were good and then just didn't work during a show. But if I'm doing an hour-long show, you have plenty of opportunities to get them back, to fix it, to have a cute little moment and play it off and then just move on with your set. On there, if something doesn't work, well, that's it, So that's where that pressure comes from. It was really intense, because you only get 2 minutes. I think my longest set was 3.5 minutes. During the finals, I got a little more time because almost all the acts were singers, so they didn't have like acts that needed a ton of setup. So I got to have a little extra time. But 3.5 is still nothing. Right. So, and everything has to hit. So, but when that happens during real shows, you just have to kind of let it go off your shoulders. You can't let it derail you. And that takes time. It takes a lot of practice. Early on in my career, if a joke didn't work, it ruined the rest of my set. Because I didn't know, you don't know how to fix it yet. You don't have the skill set. You don't have enough tools in your toolbox to repair it on the fly. Now, if something doesn't work, screw it. I got 45 more minutes. I don't care. Well, you're here to see me. We'll make it work. So,
you kind of mentioned on some of that with your touring. How has that? I know you said you're kind of waiting for things to kind of kickstart, and it seems like some things start going, and then there, other places shut down, and that. I have to say this. I posted on my Facebook today that we had this interview coming up tonight, and if there was any questions and or anything people wanted me to kind of say or or mention, had a couple of friends say love him, just that's awesome. Had the Tilted Barrel in Loveland say, if you ever want to come perform, come on down.
Okay.
So I had to tell Sonia and them that, because we go there all the time. They're good family friends.
In all fairness, once we get off here, get me some contact information. I can have them talk to my management. The worst thing that can happen is it can't work out. But I'm somebody legitimately, and I it's cool now. This is the first time I've ever had management, and I'm getting to do these bigger clubs and stuff like that. But my career, I'm for almost 14 years in now. My career is built on doing small towns in the Midwest and the South, and doing moose lodges and dive bars when the audience is 3 drunks who didn't even know it was comedy night. I am not too classy or too big to turn down anything. Obviously, it has to make sense for me. It's the thing, especially in this world, it's crazy. I can't put my health at risk for a couple $100, but I am not too. I don't think of myself as being too big of a star to blanketly turn down anything. So, hey, have them hit me up. I in a perfect world, and this sounds ridiculous to people, but it's 100% true. If everything else was the same, where I could make a living and it wasn't a big deal, I would rather perform in kind of small towns than in the big cities. I have fun in LA. I have a good time performing in LA, but LA, you can see, everyone there is an artist. You can see any big act you want almost any time you want. They're just around. If you go to a place like Owensboro, Kentucky, and you show up and you have any kind of, even before I had the TV credit, even before AGT, people were in towns like that, they're so excited that entertainment came to them. I would have been elected the mayor had I run just because I showed up. And like it's so much more fulfilling to do comedy for people who aren't also trying to become stars, aren't jaded by being around all that all the time. Right. Just going in front of normal people, maybe it's their date night, maybe they've been arguing with the wife, during the week, and this is kind of like okay, we're gonna make up, let's go just do something fun. Like those people are so much more appreciative of what you do. And because I'm that kind of guy. I grew up in a trailer park in a town of 3,000 in Indiana. I'm not an LA guy. I'm not a New York guy. I have fun there, but that's not who I am as a person.
You talked on the show, you got the chance to do some pro wrestling training and getting the chance to mix it up with Chris Jericho and, some of the AEW guys. Let's talk wrestling if we can. I mean,
sure.
We can kind of shift gears to that.
Don't gotta ask me twice.
That's where my show's kind of been based out of, and what it initially started at. And I love wrestling. I literally just finished watching Taker's last ride just before we kind of hopped on here and watched that last episode. And what is your opinion of kind of the current environment and how wrestling has been running during this pandemic and just crazy time with no fans and just everything having to be changed?
For me, with how it's running now, it's very similar to kind of how comedies had to run. Like obviously it's not ideal. I don't think you could find a single person who says they prefer no fans to fans. Like you're not going to find that. Right. But it is what it is, like I've been doing some online shows, some Zoom, Skype comedy shows. And obviously me telling jokes in this literal room I'm in right now is not the same as being in a comedy club in front of 300 people who are excited to see you and enjoy. It's not the same. But these online shows have still been fun because it's what we have. I think everyone sort of realizes this is the option right now. And that's kind of what I've felt about the wrestling shows. Like, I'm not going to lie and say they're all great. They can't be. So many of these, big moments that would be cool, like the whole Edge return has not had the same luster, because imagine how cool all that would have been with fans there. This has been some of the coolest stuff that Randy Orton's done for me personally in a while. I think he's been fantastic during this. But so much of it is going to feel lost in history when you look back at these clips and no one's there.
Yeah, exactly. Because Randy Orton's one that he's a great wrestler, but he's just never clicked with me. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, watching this whole thing with Edge and the promos, and then even coming into the greatest wrestling match setup, and I don't know what it was, what's changed, or if it's just the presentation or him, what he's changed up. But man, it's he's a different performer to me now, and I'm like, oh, this is I like watching Randy Orton right now. It's been pretty cool.
Yeah. I think some guy, and again, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on wrestling. I'm just a guy who's been a fan for a long time and is fortunate to be friends with some wrestlers. That's who I am. So this is all said with a grain of salt. But someone like Orton, I think is cool because when he's motivated and excited about something, he brings it. I think sometimes if he's not pumped about it, he just kind of does enough to get by. This clearly is something he's excited about, and he's killing it right now.
Oh yeah. Did you get a chance to watch Taker's last ride?
I watched the first one. I need to catch up. That's plans for this week. So okay. Yeah, I kind of read what was happening. Apparently he sort of announced his retirement, but maybe not really because it's wrestling.
He never said retirement, but he definitely hey, if this is the end, I love the journey kind of set up. But it's been cool to see Taker, who's always been so protective of his character and protective of wrestling in that regard, to just kind of pull back the curtain and be Mark with it and just open up to the fans that way. You mentioned getting to know a lot of the different wrestlers and that and becoming friends. How has that been going from that, fan forever to suddenly these personalities that you've known your whole life now are friends, and you got Chris Jericho like, hey, come on this whole Brady Bunch video with me, and
Yeah,
how has that been?
It's surreal. Like it really is, because I want to be careful talking about this, because like legitimately they're my friends, and I like them and I respect them. Like Jericho and I still talk probably once a week. I had Thanksgiving at his house. He's just a good dude. He's someone that, like, they tell you don't meet your heroes. I'm glad that he has exceeded the type of person that I could have hoped he would be. Like, because I can't do anything for him. I have no connections that are going to make him a bigger star. There's nothing I can do other than just give friendship to him, and he's just a good guy. As someone like me, I grew up a wrestling fan. I started watching wrestling when I was like 10, 11 years old, and I just fell in love with it. That's where the Cripple Threat name came from. Right. It was going to be my pro wrestling name. I trained for like 3 months to be a wrestler. Like, that's what I thought my path was going to be, and my body just couldn't take the training. But like, just through a lot of it's just luck. A lot of it is that I've busted my ass in stand-up comedy, and as much as like there's a lot of similarities between wrestling and comedy, and there's a ton of comedians that are huge fans of wrestling, and a lot of wrestlers who are huge fans of stand-up comedy. So a lot of it just kind of works out. It's just been like, I'm so fortunate to like have so much like passion for something, and then a lot of the people that I kind of either grew up with or just enjoy watching now, who I've just through circumstance gotten to get to know them as human beings. A few years ago, I was kind of working on a pilot and helped write some stuff when Rob Van Dam had left WWE after the whole pot bust and all that kind of stuff. When he left for a while and he was trying stand-up, I got to know him through that, which was very cool. Like, we're still buddies to this day. And then through AGT, just getting to do that stuff with Jericho. And I'm thankful that Jericho agreed to do it, because again, he doesn't have to. He didn't need a little TV time to be a star. He just liked me enough that he agreed to do everything, and we just got along great. But even through doing that stuff, and then like some of the other wrestlers that reached out to me because they saw Chris post the stuff. So, I've got to chat and talk with like Hornswoggle and Raven and old Kevin Thorne, who actually sells real estate in Indianapolis. So we were going to be like hanging out until the world shut down. So and it's stuff like, I mean, like obviously in any kind of world, like some people aren't like these huge stars, but like I love wrestling. I just love it as an art form. So for me, it's not like The Rock or bust. It's not like The Rock's the only person I would care about, and then everyone else is garbage. Like, I just love it. And then just through random, like the AEW thing was very surreal. Chris just kind of texted me out of nowhere, and he's like, hey, can you send me a video for this? And I was like, okay. And I didn't realize what exactly it was going to be. But, like having connections, I have connections with some AEW guys. I'm glad that they're doing well. Again, the empty arenas are a little rough for both promotions. It just is what it is. But I've known some of the AEW guys for a while. Like I'm buddies with Scorpio Sky. I've known the Young Bucks for years. Nick was randomly a childhood friend with a friend of mine. So Nick actually came to some comedy shows I did like in 2008, 2009, just ran before they blew up. So just kind of random stuff. I trained for a few weeks when I lived in California the first time, and Peter Avalon was just in the training class. So I happened to just know him from forever ago. So it's cool that they're all doing well. A lot of people that like deserved big opportunities, I'm glad are getting them. And and the product's fun. Like I said, like not everything is 100% amazing. I'm not going to sit here and tell you everything WWE does is great or everything AEW does is great. That's not how wrestling works. No one gets it right 100% of the time. Right. But it's fun, and it's cool that there's options. And I hope they all do well, because I never understood, even during like the WWF, WCW, Monday Night, like it should all be good. Right. Well, I don't want any of them to fail. I want WWE and AEW to be amazing. I want New Japan to be amazing. I want Ring of Honor to be. I want Impact to be. Who wants something to actively suck? Like, right. I never understand like such like strong allegiance where you want the other one to fail. No, it should all do good, because then it's just more options for all of us to enjoy this really nerdy thing.
Well, I remember on like WrestleMania, you had made a comment or a post. I think it was night one, on it, and like I might have gotten stuck in some of that too. But seeing like so many of the comments on there of like how quick it becomes, people have to have a divided line. And it's funny because like if you look at the world in general, and that's how so much stuff is, and wrestling's no different with it, unfortunately. And like some people just it's one or the other, and I think it's been cool though to see both doing well, and to see you kind of chaperone both has been cool too.
Yeah, like it's always so frustrating me because like especially when it comes to just nerd stuff that you're into, your hobbies, your interests, like who cares? Right. Like I have strong opinions on stuff, but like, man, if you love wrestling and I hate it, who cares?
Right.
It doesn't ruin my day at all that you like wrestling. And so many people have that mentality where it's right. Like, oh, you like this? Yeah, who cares? Now there are certain things that I strongly believe there shouldn't be areas of gray on. Like if you're pro racism, you're wrong. Yeah, you deserve to be mocked. If you're pro video games though, you're allowed to be that. Like you're not wrong because you have an interest I don't like. I happen to love video games. I was using it as an example. But like, yeah, so but it's weird when that mentality gets brought into everything. Right. Cuz you liking sports doesn't hurt me. If you hate black people, that's different. those are not the same. But people treat those kind of things like they're the exact same. Like, if you disagree with me, no matter what it is, you're an idiot. And that's not how life should work. You gotta pick your battles for the important stuff, and then just like nerd stuff that doesn't matter. Because it doesn't matter. I love pro wrestling. None of it matters. It doesn't matter at all in the grand scheme of things. Just enjoy a nerd thing. That's it.
What has been, to kind of come back to the wrestling talk on that, how, if you had to pick one wrestler growing up or now, that's just, if you have to put him as number one, who would that be for you?
It's going to sound like I'm biased, but honestly, Jericho. Like, I think his body of work just over the years, like he's never hit like he's never had those peak moments where he was Hogan or he was Austin or he was The Rock or he was the NWO. Like he was never that, but just like, I think a lot of people forget, man, he was like starting to get on like national, he was like an ECW in what, like 94? And then WCW like early 95? Like, that dude's been around. That's a long time. And you kind of look, and you can look back, and he's succeeded during that whole time. Like characters that are memorable, and angles and gimmicks, and reinvented himself over and over and over and over again. That like, even for other people that I genuinely enjoy, like I'm in probably one of the minority of fans who are like kind of super fans. I'm the smarkish fan who actually loves John Cena. I appreciate everything he's done.
I'm there with you.
But I don't think I'm wrong to say that, for about 10 years or so, he was the exact same person almost the entire time.
Oh, yeah. You were getting Cena no matter what. It was.
I mean, the heyday of Hogan, it was rinse and repeat, that template, over and over and over and over. And it worked. And I'm not, that's not me like faulting them for not being original. If it's not broke, don't fix it. There's no reason to. But when you look at Jericho, there's so many distinct, like, this is this era. Here's the Crybaby. Here's the Y2J. Here's the his stuff when he came back and did all that stuff with like Michaels, and here's the stuff with Kevin Owens and the list, and how here's Le Champion, and like it's all so distinct and different. And like I can't think of anyone, at least definitely over the last 30 years, who has so successfully reinvented himself over and over and over, because like he's still relevant. He's like this isn't meant to like slight him, but he's like almost 50. He's kind of getting older, and you don't know that. Like you don't look at him like he's an old dude who's hanging on too long. You know, there's certain people that are like 50 that you're like, okay, you need to get out of here. Why are you still around? And you don't look at him, and like I think that's a testament that like somebody can be around for literally almost 30 years, and you're not wanting him to go. Like you're not like wanting to push him out the door.
If you had to pick one Jericho match, because I mean, Sting is my all-time favorite. Like, that, growing up, no matter what, it was Sting. When he came to WWE, it was like the best thing ever. Growing up, it was cool. My son getting to watch him, even at that point. And, like, but like with Jericho, if you had to pick one match or one event, even with him, outside of the one with HBK, because I figured like that one kind of.
Yeah, that would have been my pick. That would have.
Yeah, that one's like an automatic, I think, for anyone. But taking that one out, what would you say was your favorite, whether it's match or event with him?
It also might be a little cliche, but I have such a personal attachment to it because it's literally the reason I decided to become a performer. So his debut in WWF at the time in '99 with the countdown clock coming down there. It was through random happenstance, but I was lucky enough to be in the building when that happened. So I grew up in Northwest Indiana. That took place in Chicago at the Rosemont Horizon. And, we were poor. I didn't get to go to a lot of wrestling shows, but it was like a late birthday present. So my brother and I and one of my friends, we all got to go to that. And just being in the building and like feeling that energy. To this day, and I've got to be at some cool stuff just wrestling wise. I've been to a WrestleMania. I was at the Royal Rumble where AJ Styles debuted. I've just got to, through circumstance, be at some cool stuff.
Right.
But still, like that moment, like just feeling how much energy was in that building and how loud it was, and like I still have such vivid memories. Like I get goosebumps now. Thinking about it, like that would be the moment, because it's literally at the time I thought I was going to become a wrestler, but like feeling that moment, I was like, one day I want to give other people the same feeling that I have right now, and that so like for me that was such a moment that helped shape kind of the rest of my life essentially. And so that would be the moment I would pick. That debut is still one of the coolest things.
I would put, and it's for the same type of reason, just like you said. I got to be at Vengeance, out in San Diego when he won the title.
Oh, okay.
And when he beat The Rock, and then he beats Austin, and just that feeling in the building, like when it was like, holy cow, they're putting him on, they're going with Jericho, like just that.
Yeah.
It's hard to even put into words how that was, but just that feeling in the building, like that was one of the best Jericho moments I can put out there. So.
Yeah. And for me, like, and that's why I touched on it earlier, is it's like those kind of moments are why I'm so thankful he turned out not to be a dick. Because it would have been so heartbreaking if when I met him he was just a huge asshole. It would have ruined me for a while. So that makes me even like so much more happy that like not only has he given me all this like joy just from his job, but he's also just the best dude.
That's cool. Ryan, I feel like we could talk for hours when it comes to wrestling and getting
absolutely. Yeah, we'll have to do another one later. We can just talk wrestling.
For sure.
Come back and do it again.
Do some wrestling recaps even here and there. But truly, thank you. I don't want to keep you too much longer. Thank you for taking the time to join us and to do this podcast and working it into it with just everything going on in the world and taking that time. It's good to kind of get away from everything out there and be able just to laugh and talk some good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, and like I said, appreciate you being patient with. It took us a while to make this happen, but I'm glad we did, man. You're a good dude, so I appreciate it. This was fun. We'll do this again sometime.
For sure. Where can people follow you at? How can they keep up with what's going on with you and be able to see your shows and everything else?
So all the standard stuff. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff at Cripple Threat 8. That's the number 8. Because there was 7 before me, but I've risen to power. And also my website is cripplethreat.com. I have to get it updated because obviously things have changed a lot. But in theory, my calendar is up there. Everything is kind of, by the seat of our pants. Right now, it all changes day to day about whether they can actually happen or not. But in theory, my touring schedule's on there. If you like what I do, come out to a show. I'm very interactive with fans as much as I can be during this time. But if you hit me up online, I'm probably gonna say hi back. Just because, man, if the fact that anyone cares about me at all is still surreal. So if you're gonna say hi, the least I can do is say hi back. So come talk some wrestling, whatever you want. I can nerd out all day, clearly. So yeah, you find me on there, and hopefully you find me on the road.
And one thing I forgot, I was going to say, Civilization. You had asked for some games out there that you were looking for the next one.
Oh,
I don't know if that's in your realm, but it's like the one game I can get into and nice because it's easy to step away from, but it's a good thing.
I had been thinking of starting that actually. I just got because I'm a collector. I just got Civ 6 not that long ago, so I might fire that up because I haven't played a Civilization literally I think since 2. I think that's the last one I played was like maybe late high school.
I played like Revolution when it was on like the PlayStation.
And okay, yeah.
And then saw the new one coming out on the Switch. I think is what it came out on, and then now they have it on the PlayStation. I was like, I got to get this, and probably drive my wife nuts because of playing it so much. But it's been fun to.
Hey, but at least it keeps you quiet. Your wife should appreciate that. It keeps your mouth shut and focused over there, so she doesn't have to listen to you.
Well, Ryan, thank you for taking the time, man. I truly appreciate it. We will for sure try to get you in for some more wrestling talk. And but until then, have a safe time, man. Be good, and thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Josh. Take care, buddy.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Show with Hollywood JDT and Stuntman Kirk. Want to stay in the know on all things sports, wrestling, movies, and TV? Follow the show on social media at The Show Podcast. If you like today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on The Show.